I'm excited.
Welcome to the Leighton Inclusion Interview Show, where we talk about the difference between kindness and cruelty with an emphasis on kindness. And today we're going to be talking about family and kindness and creativity. And I've been feeling we've got a lot to say about gratitude as we're coming up on the holidays. Hi, Joanie Leeds. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm having a good day, and I want to talk a little bit more about you because I see you as a lifelong artist, songwriter, musician, even an actress with performing. Because I know you went to Syracuse and studied in theater.
I did, yes.
Yeah, see? And you have a new album called Ageless, which is inspired by your grandmother. So we'll go from Granny to Grammy because you also won
Yes,
a
yes.
Grammy for all 3 ladies all the ladies.
All the ladies. Yeah, I like that. Grammy to Grammy. I love that. You're the first one that has said that so far. So
I'm curtsing, thank you
catchphrase.
so much. But
Yeah.
that I love that album too. I love the new album, Ageless, 100 Years Old Young,
Yes.
because I just love that. I love the album, and part of the reason is because of Those Were the Days is in it, and your daughter works on it too, and her name is Joya?
Yeah, Joya is 10 years old and she made demands that on my next album she very much wanted to be a part of it and more in a more prominent way. So I when I was starting to write the music and I knew a couple of years ago that I wanted to write an album all about my grandmother because she was in her late 90s and I wanted to honor her in her life. And so, as her 100th birthday was coming closer, I had all of these ideas, but I hadn't written anything down. And then, when Joya said, I want to sing, I started thinking about, well, what would it be like if these generations, it was like an intergenerational type of album, and then I could write a part for her and have duets and have her do a solo. So all of that was kind of swirling around as I wrote all of the songs for the album, all about my grandmother. Her name is Sylvia Fershman Nusinov. Sylvia Fershman Nusinov. I call her Bubby, which is Yiddish for grandmother. And she is amazing. She just celebrated her 100th birthday in August of 2025. So it was a huge celebration for my family, and everybody flew in, and she flew in. We all met in Baltimore, which is where she raised her family and was raised herself. So it was a really special event, and my daughter and I sang a lot of the songs from the album for the whole family at the big party. So it was very special. I'm glad that the album is resonating with people of all ages because it is a children's album. It's written for young kids and, obviously their families to enjoy. But because it has the element of, you know, the different ages in life and genealogy, I think there's a pull for the older generation to feel seen as well. So I think it's a really special way musically to connect the older generation and the younger generation through music.
I'm really grateful that your grandmother is still alive. Was she born in the States or overseas
She
in
was
Europe?
born in the States. Her family fled Austria and Lithuania. A lot of them didn't make it. Um,
Right.
there's a song on the album called Genealogy, and it's all about
Yeah.
that story about her family. Like she didn't even know she had any family until she was given a letter from her father, and then it took like years and years, like decades, to translate it. And when she finally did, she found out that she had first cousins that lived in Paris and in France and Lyon. They didn't know, like, nobody knew the other existed, but through the internet in the 90s, they found each other. And then they came
Brilliant.
to the States and we got to meet them. And she found many, many, many more family members through the internet, which was really, it opened a lot of doors for people that didn't know that they had family in Europe and who survived and who didn't survive. And It was a really incredible thing that she did, and then she helped other people do it too through a Jewish genealogical society that she was the president of down in South Florida. So she really she knew what she was doing, and she was
Yeah.
a sleuth.
It's I learned a little bit about that actually because I took a cultural anthropology course.
Oh, cool.
And by the way, my mom would have been 101 years old. So it was easy for me to do the math and realize your mom, 1925. And
My grandma. Hmm.
yeah, your grandma, you're right.
Yeah.
Um, and the song, genealogy, I'd love to talk about the roots and branches, if you will, of that song because first off, I'm sure you had a little interest in genealogy, but not like your grandma did
Yeah, I
too.
think she is what used to be extremely diligent in her research and findings and focused, and like she that was her life's work. I mean, she had many different jobs, and she's always been really curious, and she uses that curiosity as fuel to find out information. So she was the perfect genealogist, and even to this day she's reading a book every day. She's just a very curious person. Every time I call her, what are you doing? Oh, I'm reading a book. So she's just always trying to find out information. She asks a lot of questions. She's always listening. That's just the type of person that she is. So yeah, perfect genealogist.
Years ago, I interviewed Weird Al Yankovic. Now, stick with me on this
Okay.
because when he writes songs, he'll write out a lot of the characteristics and qualities that that song could cover, and he edits and organizes rhymes and things like that. And I'm wondering, as far related to the roots and branches of this song,
Mm.
if that was somewhat related to your approach in writing this song and what was going through your mind.
That's a good question because I think when people write a song, sometimes they're emotionally stirred and then they start putting pen to paper. And I've always done it from more of an assignment point of view. And I almost make these really difficult assignments for myself. And so I
Good.
knew that I wanted to do a song all about her finding her cousins. And so then you think, well, what kind of song is that going to be? What genre? Because in children's music, you can do any genre. Like, I'm not bound to doing only folk or only this.
Right, right.
So it ended up being kind of like a spoken word rap type of
Mhm.
song in a way. I was thinking about an article that she had written. It was published in Baltimore in the Times, that was called Scattered Seeds. And so I read the whole article, and it was talking about like scattered seeds and finding her roots. And I thought that that was a really poetic way to talk about the family tree and the genealogical research that went into finding her scattered seeds that were literally all over the world. So I had written a song back in, I want to say it was 2010. I could be very wrong. It's called Family Tree, and it has the same kind of idea. I not about the cousins, but just about like the generic family tree with the imagery of roots and branches and leaves, and sometimes leaves get lost and the winds may blow them away, but if we write them down, we will remember them always. That was a lyric that I wrote. And Jonatha Brooke, incredible folk singer, she sang that song as a duet with me, and I was so blown away
Sweet.
that she wanted to do it because I'm like a huge fan of hers, and she had just lost her mother. So I approached her with this idea. And so I had done a music video with my grandmother for that song many, many years ago, like a decade or more ago. And so we rolled and unrolled all of these family trees that she had created, and I mean, they were 20 feet long from one side to the other side. And so you can watch that video. And then I wanted to take a step further. So that's what the song genealogy was all about, kind of taking it next
It
level.
It's really clever, and I'm gonna have to add that it's as good as a Weird Al song, so
That's
except
a huge honor. Thank you. He's an incredible lyricist. Brilliant.
yeah, I mean, it could be a hit song, you know how things are, but it's something I think a lot of people would relate to. Those were the days or the days. What is the title? It's an adapted song from what Mary Hopkins adapted her that song because it's an old Russian folk song. I know that.
Yes. I always felt like it had this kind of klezmer feel to it, even though it's not a klezmer song. It's one of my Bubby's favorite songs. She sings it a
Sure.
lot. And so I thought it would be fun to do our own rendition of it. And then at the very, very end, if you hung in there and listened to the whole album, you'll hear her voice at the end singing it. And it's my
Yeah.
aunt literally just holding up a voice recorder or phone up to her, and she's singing it a cappella, and she's clapping, and, die, 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 So the whole die, 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 die chorus or refrain, that's like a very Jewish melody that you hear a
Yeah.
lot, like in the minor chords, like the A minor, D minor, E seventh. So I decided to kind of write my own um, lyrics for the verses and keep the chorus the same. And
I hear.
I wanted it to be about honoring our elders and have that be the focus of that specific song. Because when I wrote the whole album, there were all of these benchmarks that I wanted to hit. Not just about my grandmother and writing about her life, although a lot of it is about her life, but I also wanted to make it so that it had mass appeal, not just
Right.
it was for just my family. Like, I'm sure my family is like blown away, but it's also I wanted other families to listen to it and feel seen. So I put in quotes from, you know different famous people, like Oprah's in there and John Kabat-Zinn. There's like a bunch of different proverbs that I went through. I went through African proverbs. I went through old, Hebrew, Yiddish, like all of these different things. I'm like, did a lot of research. And then the Bubby song, I don't know if you heard the Bubby song, but I wanted to put in as many grandmother names as I possibly could think of, and then have it work and rhyme. So that took a little while, but from my own brain, not through the interwebs, I wrote down as many as I could think of and inserted them into the song. And then when I got stuck, I did ended up going on and looking at a
Sure.
couple of lists because it is there as a resource. It was a
Good
fun game
resources.
for me to think about how many can I actually come up with on my own. Um, and then it was important for me to kind of tie it in at the end of the Bubby song, talking about and also acknowledging not everybody has or had a grandmother, and not everybody has a living grandmother, and
Mhm.
some people love and miss their grandmother whether they're alive or that they've passed. So I wanted to bring that into the story of the album as well.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. And by the way, I like that you did use the internet or AI or something related. I
Not
don't know.
AI. No.
Huh?
I didn't use AI.
Oh, okay.
No, but I was like Googling, you know,
Sure.
grandmother's names, and then there would be like lists in other countries, they call them this. And then I had to look at pronunciations and videos on YouTube and make sure I'm saying them right, because I didn't want to, for all eternity, have it wrong. I think I did it okay. I checked into a couple of my friends. I'm like, in Japanese, am I saying, this word right for grandmother? And
Good.
so I tried to do as much research as I could, um, hoping.
Look, I do that too. If I'm looking for song themes or calorie contents, you name it, I'm Googling
Right.
or web browsing. And I also like your approach to not worrying. That song, Don't Worry. That's one of
Don't
my
worry.
favorite. It's a good mantra. It's got some good stuff going there. And it's melodic as all heck.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the. So I wish I had it in front of me. It's somewhere in my files, but my grandmother on her 65th birthday, I believe it was her 65th or 70th, they made a book that they handed out to everybody. And then they did it again on her 100th with all of her famous bubisms or bubbyisms because she's got these
Pavillions.
incredible quotes that she's always, thinking of and spewing off and she's famous for them. So one of the ones that she says is don't worry, worry till worry worries you. And I thought it would be a little bit more melodic for never worry, worry till worry worries you. So I changed
Sure.
it to never. Um, and it's basically about staying in the moment and trying to let the small stuff or don't sweat the small stuff. You know, let your troubles melt away and roll off your back. All of those things where people are just like, stay present. I have a lot of trouble with that. I'm an anxious individual.
You'll
So,
get better at it, I promise, because I've
yeah,
been there and I'm better at that.
I think for me and my daughter is the same way. I'm noticing these patterns and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I ruined her." But I think that we're wired that way, but my bubby is not. She is so um, positive, like optimistic, and I'll talk to her. She could have some sort of medical thing happening or whatever, and she's just like, "Oh, it's a beautiful day, looking at the ocean." I'm like, but she's not a complainer,
Right, right.
and it's an interesting perspective, and I like the lens to look through life that way. But she's constantly in my ear. Um, I mean, I put her there to remind me to try to stay in the moment and be present and not and try to be more positive. So
I'm
it's
sort of gonna
yeah.
contradict I'm sort of gonna contradict myself on one hand because we also do make plans when we're you and I were both in show business, so we have to create lists of things to
Mhm.
do or long-term goals, try to make plans, and I think especially as things come in and I see you, I mean, you're playing Austin City Limits,
Mhm.
you've played the Levitt Pavilion, you're playing the Jewish Museum. We've got the Indie Collaborative December 3rd happening at Lincoln Center and more. And I'm looking at your tour dates and you're booked.
I'm
So
I'm booked. I'm booked for a children's musician. I think that I'm really lucky that I can live during the week at home, pick my daughter up from school every single day,
mhm.
be there for her recitals, and then on the weekends or at night I can perform. And it's a really difficult juggle. I call it the juggle struggle because it's as also I'm a single mom, so I'm like I have to get babysitters sometimes. I have to deal with her transport, but I also realize how lucky I am to be with a wonderful booking agent who has my back. I did all of my own publicity for this album, but in the past, I've had wonderful people that I've worked with doing publicity, and I just really feel grateful to have been doing it for this long and still able to do it. And now my daughter wants to do it with me, so like that's really fun. And the moment that she's like, "Nah, don't want to," I'm fine with that too. I'm not pushing her.
Right, right.
This Lincoln Center show I mentioned, would you like to do that? It's just 3 songs, and she's like, yeah, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
So she was really excited about it. And then next Thursday, I have a show, like a pretty big show, and she found out who else was on the bill, and it was like some artist that I think that she is like kind of fanning over, and so she was like, I'm not doing that. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So we just take it day by day.
I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. By the way, I love your juggle struggle. That was cool.
Struggle.
Yeah, you're thinking I feel for I can relate to your spontaneous combustion as a poet. So it's good as a
Yeah.
writer.
Yeah.
So
And I also think there's something as an artist where you almost have to use that frantic energy. Um, I'm either overbooked or underbooked, and there's always like it's the ebbs and flows and
Hmm.
valleys, and you're constantly navigating. And I feel like when I'm not busy, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not busy. Like, I don't know, what am I going to do? And rent and like all the, expenses and everything. And I'm like thinking about it and I'm freaking out. And then the next month, I'm like so booked that I'm never home. And I'm like, I'm so exhausted. So I feel like it's for me, it's a constant, like, just a lot of emotions and trying to just stay even keeled and stay motivated. I mean, I'm motivated, but I'm also, I'm like, I don't know how to explain it, but I think you understand.
Can totally relate because I work with a guy named Elliot Murphy who has a song from the 80s ish called Taking the Silence. And he wrote that when he was uh, going to law school, I think. And the gist of the song was taking the silence. That's the time he's going to invest in himself.
Hmm. Yeah,
And yeah, so he was able to deal with the worry and the don't worry, never worry. So he was able to do it by taking the silence to use that.
yeah. And then sometimes I just don't want to do anything, and I will sit on the couch and watch and binge Netflix. I'll, eat my ice cream and not really feel bad about it. And then the next day, I'm like, okay, all right, now I need to get down to business. So I think work hard, play hard mentality. My dad instilled that in me very young. He was a really hard worker, and I think, and although we have very different jobs, he was a lawyer and I'm a musician. Like, I think that I do want to work really, really hard, and I think that's inspiring also for my daughter to see, like, you can make it as a musician. It is not an easy line of work, but it is a really fun line of work where sometimes it doesn't even feel like you're working. It really doesn't sometimes. It just feels like,
It is, yeah, I mean, it's a gift that we can do this.
right.
And and I have a feeling that like every step along the way you were grateful for the breaks or the
Yeah.
lessons learned or something like that. I just have that weird feeling about you.
For sure. For sure. And I need both. Like, I'm not one. I watch some of our friends that are touring all the time. I mean, a lot of them don't have kids, but the ones that do, even, I mean, it doesn't even matter. It's just like on the road all the time. I mean, that's just not the way that my schedule is set up, and I don't know if I could do that. Honestly, it would be a huge change for me and my lifestyle. I don't even know. That would be, maybe when my daughter is like in college, I can be like, all right, tour in Europe. But for now, I stick to these one-offs, and it works out pretty well for me.
Yeah, but you're also being methodical
Yeah,
about the whole thing as
yeah,
opposed to, hey, spill. I mean, that's the rules in show business nowadays. You can call your shots pretty
right.
much if you're a niche performer.
That's right. And I do appreciate that. And I think from the start, I remember I first got my start doing birthday parties, and I was working at Gymboree playing music as like a
Right,
children's
right.
entertainer. And I remember when I started to transition into the birthday party world, I didn't have an agent because I was just like, you know, doing birthday parties, and it was really fun. And I got into like a really great group of clients that referred me, and I was doing like 3, 4, 5, 6 birthday parties in a weekend. And then that's when I started writing music for children, because I was just so inspired by these little kids and all of the things that they would say and do. And that's really when I started writing for kids. But then when I got my agent, she's like, you gotta charge more. You're doing like these birthday parties. You're running yourself so ragged. Like, you need to calm down. But I was like in my early 20s, so I had all this energy. Um, but it was a smart thing to take my business really seriously early, because if I had continued on that birthday party path and doing like 6 a weekend at a low price, I would have been so burnt out by the time I hit my mid 20s. I would have just been done. So I think it was really good advice to kind of take a step back and to transition into concerts. And knowing your worth, I think, is also a really important lesson in learning it early because, even today, somebody texted me, like, you know, what do you think I should charge for this concert? I'm like, well, I'm not going to say the number, but I was like, just make sure it's enough because then we're just going to get around that you're charging this much. And it's like, I think knowing your worth and not settling for less is also something that we don't talk about enough
No.
musicians with each other, but also especially for women in the industry. And I think it's a difficult subject to talk about, but I think it's really important because we're all working together, even if we're vying for the same gigs. And if one person is undercutting or not taking what they should and what they're worth, then it really hurts the whole industry and everybody that's in it together. So that's what I will say about that.
Yeah, well, sometimes the artist or the publicist might go, "Oh man, no one's going to hire me. I need a job. Yeah, I'm willing to do it. These people can't afford to pay me X,"
Right.
that type of thing. And I think that has been something I've dealt with as a publicist. Like I want to work with these artists, but they don't have any money. That type
Right.
of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a difficult thing. But I do think publicity is extremely valuable. It's like that's the thing that I think at the very beginning of my career set me up for success was that I had a great publicist, Elizabeth Waldman Frazier, out of San Francisco. She's fantastic, and she got me in People magazine, and she got me in Parents magazine, and a lot of these blogs. And so I had this, these the, what do they call them? Not cuttings. What do they call them? Where they, the clippings. The clippings. They had my clippings, and then I would send it to the next um, whatever the next magazine and be like, I was just in this, and then they would be like, oh well, you're in that one. So it built on each other, and now it's like I almost don't need a publicist, although it's a huge time commitment to do all of that work.
It is.
It was like so much work on this album, but I got really great pieces in American Songwriter and New York One, and I mean, I got some really great stuff, but I don't think I would have gotten that had I not had all of the other previous press. So
No.
it all kind of builds on each other, and publicists are great. Love a publicist.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. But you have a good track record as well, too. Um, winning Grammys, things like that. That's badass. Or winning a Grammy and
Winning.
being nominated for several. And we don't know. We are doing this interview actually the day before the Grammy nomination. So I would say that you're a three-time Grammy nominated person, but I
No,
might
no, I've
change.
only one. I had one nomination and one win. So we'll see
Oh,
if tomorrow that we are on Grammy nomination eve as we take this
yeah.
interview. So
So
we'll see.
I might change what I wrote for the intro. Who knows? Tell me about realistic stuff. So you mentioned that you were watching Netflix. I'm currently watching Nashville on
Oh,
Netflix, which is really it's about a badass woman that takes command all over Nashville, and everybody is like, oh yeah, I'm going to kowtow to you, Raina James.
huh.
But what are you watching on TV these days?
Oh, wow. Okay. I just finished a series called Wayward with Toni Collette. It was like kind
Mm,
of I would say a suspenseful cult show with teenagers in it. Definitely on the darker side. It's not uplifting like Nash. I have actually not seen Nashville. I've heard really good things about it.
yeah, I do. It's
Um,
musical for sure.
yeah, my daughter and I every night when we have dinner, we watch Glee, and now we started it last year. It's getting a little inappropriate. I mean, it's been inappropriate the whole time, and there's definitely things where I'm like, let's pause. We need to have a conversation. Let me explain why that is super racist or super this or what. Like, there's so much that's problematic in that show, we were
Right.
watching it for the singing. Like she likes the singing. She loves the Glee Club whole, the vibe of the Glee Club. So
Yeah.
it actually is, it's a good teaching tool, and I feel like everything that she has learned about the world has come from Broadway or Glee.
Very cool.
Not necessarily all good. We have these conversations.
Sure.
So Glee every night. What else? What else? I love gosh, there's so many shows. I love Severance. Um, that's on Apple. The morning show on Apple is really good. I don't know. I love a good cult show. I'm into like the darker mystery type of stuff. Um, that I know a lot of people say that they're not able to watch it because it makes their brain go crazy, and then if they watch it before bed, they can't sleep. But I'm like, I can watch Handmaid's Tale and just be like, good night.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know. I have a gift. I could do that. But I love watching shows, and my daughter and I are going through Adam Sandler movies right now. So we watched Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, and the second Happy Gilmore. I don't know. She
a
thinks
crazy actor. I love
oh
him.
yeah, he's so funny, and Big Daddy. And I went to Syracuse University, so that was really fun to see Big Daddy, and they're wearing all their Syracuse gear. And
Sure.
yeah, she thinks he's very funny. She loves musical theater. We see a lot of Broadway together, so we saw Beetlejuice this week. I just saw Bat Boy over the weekend at the City Center. So we see a lot of shows. It takes us like 20 minutes on the train, so that's always something that we like to do together. And she's in shows. She loves to be in musicals. So right now she's playing the lion in The Wizard of Oz, which is exciting. And she's always the cast as the character role. So the kind of funny sidekick, like Olaf in Frozen, she was Olaf, or Ryan in High School Musical. Um, so yeah, her roles are always very, very funny.
The fact that the daughter told you, your daughter, Joya, told you
Mhm.
she wanted to do music as opposed to you being a stage mom and say, well, you have to go in the room with me or something like that.
No,
I
I would
I
be the
think
worst stage mom because I never make her practice. And I'm like, well, she had her first voice lesson with this really incredible teacher. And the teacher was like, give me a year, I'll have her on The Voice. And Joya's like, what's The Voice? And I was like, oh, it's a TV show. She's like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, if she doesn't want to do it, we don't need that to be the goal. Like, I just want her to sing properly and like have fun and learn how to properly, sing and hit the notes the right way. And that's what she wants to. So, I mean, she's 10 years old. At 10 years old in Miami when I was growing up, I didn't know from The Voice or Broadway. Like, I was just having fun and singing in the plays and choir at school and things like that. And I don't want her to have to grow up too fast. I don't want her to have to miss school.
right,
Um, so it's important that she's there. I mean, if it's inevitable, like if she has to, then okay, but I'm not pulling her out so that she can play at the Kennedy Center with me, and I'm not pulling her out so she can play at Austin City Limits with me. Like,
right,
she wanted to come, but it's too important for her. I want her to get her studies. That's all.
cool.
For now. For now. We'll see.
What what plays were you in high school and college?
I was in Greece. I was in a chorus line, Gypsy,
Cool.
and I was in a Candor and Ebb review called And the World Goes Round. That was all in high school. In college, I was in the musical theater department, but I was never really cast in the musicals. I did
Ooh,
a female version of The Odd Couple, which was directed by my very good friend and incredible now director out in Hollywood, Kimmy Gatewood. She is so inspiring, and she directs like big shows like Glow and The Babysitters Club and
Oh, I
Um,
saw a glow.
Girls Five Eva, she did a bunch of those episodes, and she's done Sesame Street and things like that. So that was really fun to be under her direction. I did mammoths, duck variations. I don't know, very random things. The thing that I started to do in college while everybody else was getting cast in musicals was realize that it wasn't probably going to happen for me in the way that the mid 90s and late 90s were casting. It was always dance first and cattle calls, and I just was not I'm not a great dancer. um, I could tap like a little bit, but I wasn't under there's no way that anybody would categorize me as a dancer, and I kind of figured that out very early on. So I started writing music in college, and I would lock myself into these practice rooms with the piano, and I had a guitar. And my roommate, my freshman year of college, and we both had guitars, and we loved the Indigo Girls, and we loved Fiona
Sweet.
Apple, and like we had the same taste in music. And she was in the music department, and I was in the theater department, and we just sang all the time. Tori Amos, like all of the, the Lilith Fair ladies, like we loved all that stuff. And that's when I started writing. So when I was graduating my senior year, everybody was all like going to, wanting to be on Broadway, and I was like, I just
Right.
want to play at the bitter end. So that's what I
Cool.
did. That's what I did.
You did right. You did right for yourself because that's a journey and it's a hop, skip, and a jump to play
Yeah.
for children's birthdays or a gymboree.
Well,
S-
I think at the time when I graduated college, I took every job that you could possibly think of. And I was bartending at the bitter end, and I was working answering phones. I worked at Miramax Films. I did the casting department. Like, I worked in a clothing manufacturing plant answering the phones. I've had so many different jobs. I was a real estate agent for a couple of years,
Brilliant.
and sometimes holding two or three jobs at the same time, like
Right.
bartending while I was at Gymboree and teaching at a school, like all over the place, just to kind of make the singer songwriter thing work. But then when I transitioned into only performing and writing for children, that's when things really shifted for me. And I got rid of all of the day jobs, and I still teach. I teach 2 days a week in an early childhood department, and then I teach music. So it's important as a New Yorker with a New York expenses, and a single mom, to at least have something to hold down the fort and that I can count on and rely on.
Right.
It's not easy. So
No.
that's what I do, and then I tour as much as I can on the weekends and in the summer. So it works out somehow.
Well, I think you have a lot to be grateful. Is there anything that you comes into your mind right now about what you're grateful for?
I am really grateful. There's a song on the last album that Joya and I sing together called Grateful. And I think it's very environmentally focused. Like, I'm grateful for the stars and the sun and the moon and the mountains and things like that. And I am, as a Miami girl, born and raised, like very connected with nature. Even though I live in New York City, I love hiking. I love being outside. I love the park. I mean, that's all we've got here in New York City, but I love visiting my family in Vermont and North Carolina and being outside.
Wonderful.
So that I am very thankful for, but I'm also thankful for all of my friends and colleagues and collaborators in the music industry. I feel so honored and grateful that people trusted in my album, All the Ladies, and did nominate, and it won that year. That was so meaningful, like more meaningful than anyone could even understand. Like, it was a very special album, to work with all of these women and conceptually have this idea that women should be elevated in the music industry. And I know I'm not the first person to have come up with this idea. Like, I'm standing on the shoulders of so many people who came before me with the same idea. But
Roger that.
the fact that people it resonated with so many people of all different genders is really, really special. And then I wrote
Like
an
that.
album about banned books, and now my grandmother. So like, I always try to choose things that are near and dear to my heart, and you never know who's listening and who it's going to resonate with. So I just try to stay true to myself and hope that it resonates with people that are in the industry and out. So, but mostly the kids and the families. That's who it's for, you know?
I'm really thankful for this interview. If there's anything else you want to add, I know you have a book coming out next year.
Yes, yes, yes. I do. It's in February. I don't have the exact date, but it's published through Barefoot Books, and I don't know if we've done a title reveal yet, so I'm gonna have to hold on to that one. But it'll be my first children's picture book, and it's in connection with a song that I wrote specifically for this book. So when you buy the book, you can hear the song, and there's going to be a QR code in the back, and it's a mindfulness song that caregivers and parents can use right before bed and nap. And so that's the gist. I'm excited about it.
Cool.
I've always wanted to write a book. So I'm excited.
You're going to keep writing. You are a writer and many other things. And I'm really appreciative of this interview and all your concepts. And we're all looking forward to hearing you live on the road, sometimes solo and sometimes with your daughter.
Yeah, and sometimes with my band. So you never know what you're gonna get. Get everything. Yeah, I'm excited for that show at Lincoln Center with Indie Collaborative, and it's going to be an honor to share the stage with Joya too, because she's she's a force. She's a force. I can't wait for everyone to meet her.
Thank you both. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank your Bubby too.
You. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.